Beyond the giant problem of IP theft, which is real, the United States also has a huge trade deficit with China, $336 billion last year. On the other hand, you can say that benefits China. On the other, you can say it benefits the American consumer because we can get goods made in China, remember that little sticker, more cheaply. China has already placed tariffs on all sorts of U.S. exports. So where is all of this headed? And how does it directly impact you and me? Because we keep hearing the word tariff over and over. I talked to someone who knows. His name is Riley Walters, a policy analyst at the Conservative Heritage Foundation. Riley, we hear about yet more tariffs, and we've just seen it so many times that it can almost become wallpaper. What does this mean overall for trade?
Well, what it essentially means is that cross-border trade between the United States and China is getting more expensive for people who like to buy things from China, or if you just happen to sell things to the Chinese market. Essentially what this means is that it'll be more expensive for Americans to buy. It'll also mean for just the overall U.S. economy, a potential slowdown in growth and a potential loss of market share within China.
If we're talking about a slowdown in growth in the U.S., how does this affect China?
I would probably downplay a lot of the rhetoric you hear about how much the tariffs specifically are hurting China. China's own domestic economy has some flaws, and they're trying to address that. And it just happens to be that, China's domestic economy is hurting at the time that these tariffs are being imposed. But overall, I mean, trade between the U.S. and China as a portion of our total economies are roughly about 15%. And that trade itself only makes up about 30% of our individual economy. So 15% of 30% of our total economy, I think, as the president alluded to, it's a rounding error. That's not to say, though, individual families won't be hurt by this, and specific industries as well.
I wonder politically, is this going to be a net positive for Republicans?
It's hard to say how it will fall. I mean, certainly you hear reports about how Trump's voting base is very supportive of him, almost no matter what he does on trade. You hear the term, short-term cost for long-term benefit. I sort of see these tariffs as a learning cost. Essentially, I don't foresee any positive movement in the trade war before 2019. And come January 1st, 2019, it's potential that every single item that we import from China could be up to 25% more expensive, which will directly harm individuals.
Which, yeah, we should note that some of these numbers we're seeing 10% tariffs, but that kicks up to 25% in some cases, right, down the road?
Correct. And the president said if China retaliates, which China has said it will retaliate, he will tax every single item. And at that point, no one's safe. $567 billion, while in the grand scheme of things is not a lot, given that we have a $16-17 trillion economy. But for Americans, for everyday individuals, you're not insulated from when $567 becomes 25% more expensive.
Is there a possibility of us seeing jobs affected if this keeps escalating?
Certainly, yes. So to break it down, what tariffs are essentially are an increase in price, and that can trickle down to affect any number of things, from just the products that you buy at the store, but to how expensive input products, how much more expensive input products are for manufacturers.
Do you think that we could get to a spot, and we've heard little rumblings here and there, of actually going back more the route of a TPP, where we create deals with nations who also feel like they've been taken advantage of by China and also want to oppose them and not have them be this single dominant economic player in the world?
Yeah, regarding TPP, I think the president is just as straightforward on that as all these other issues. I don't see him pursuing TPP. Though I think he should be pursuing more free trade agreements, whether it's bilateral or multilateral. But we just don't see that either right now. And so it makes it really difficult to have a successful negotiation with China when we don't have successful negotiations with our other partners.
So more tariffs probably on the way, TPP probably not. And there are some other big developments tonight concerning journalists, in a further indication of how the Trump administration is targeting China and its influence on the United States. The Department of Justice is ordering 2 of China's biggest news agencies operating in the U.S. to register as foreign agencies.